We have Luanne Fleming and Robin Austin from Face Us Radio at Blog Talk Radio with under the handle Hidden Truth Revealed. We'll have the link in the description for you guys. And you guys want to go ahead and introduce yourselves?
Sure. I'm Robin Austin, and about, gosh, how many years ago, Luanne and I began a weekly radio show on Blog Talk Radio because of the corruption that we were seeing in the court system, and that we were personally affected by. And when we discovered how widespread it was, as we began to discover others that had had the same problem, we launched this radio program, and we've been doing it for 7 years now.
Yes, my name is Luanne Fleming, and I also was put into the probate court fraud system. 10 years I was into the probate court, and we lost everything my family worked for over 50 years. And the property would be about $3.5 million worth or more today. And we had to settle for like 10 cents, less than that from the estate administrator. So yeah, we lost it all.
About 4 cents on the dollar.
Yeah,
eventually.
4 cents on the dollar, maybe 1 cent on the dollar. Yes.
It certainly seems like they're doing everything in their power to drain people of their savings and their money. That's for sure. It seems like that's one of their tactics. What would you say to that?
It appears that that's really oftentimes the goal. I mean, in many courtrooms across America and actually throughout the world, the goal seems to be to absolutely leave people destitute, because oftentimes that's what they do. They take everything, leaving people with nothing. And oftentimes, if we're talking about people that they lock away to do that, like put them in a nursing home, you'll never see them again. Once they're finished with them, they call in hospice, they give them the kill shot, and that's the last you hear of them. They're gone.
Right.
You know, I'm not surprised, considering what happened to my mother, because of the neglect that she suffered in a care facility, and after she had her injury, which I've seen the same tactics. And what's really, really, really evil is when we hired a pro bono lawyer to take her case for neglect. They strung us along for 5 months, only to tell us, after telling us we had a solid case, only to backtrack last minute and tell us, oh, the case has no legs, and then gaslighting us, trying to tell us that, oh, she must have had those blisters, she must have been in excruciating pain. Well, she was a Domino's pizza delivery driver, so there's no way she would have been able to drive if she had those blisters beforehand, which was what they were claiming. So even the lawyer colluded with the hospital and the care facility to cover it up.
Mm-hmm. We see that over and over. It is actually the exception to the rule when you get an attorney who does not wind up playing ball with the other side. And we think it's just because that way they ensure that whatever bill they put into the court will simply be stamped and approved.
Mm-hmm.
And because it's coming out of the resources that they capture when they take control of that individual and their resources.
Yep.
And those resources then become the property of the court. If it's a trust, a will, family properties, whatever it may be, it then belongs to that group of attorneys in that court, and it's just divided up among them.
Yep.
And the family can kiss the person and their properties all goodbye.
Oh yeah, no, it's case fixing at the highest level.
Yes.
Yeah. What Belinda Parker Brown says is the fix is in. That's what she says, and it's true. And the problem with a lot of this is that a lot of people go and they create trust wills, documents, power of attorney, thinking that that's going to protect them. But then when they get into a court for any reason, for any allegation whatsoever, they don't realize that once you're into probate court, they have all the authority over that trust. And once you get into a court, they can see arguing family members, and then they can give that to a public administrator, a conservator, or guardian, and then they have control over your whole estate, and you have no power whatsoever once that happens.
Wow.
And then that is when the problems start. Then if you try to find an attorney, more than likely those attorneys are all involved, and you think they're going to work with you, but they're not. And then they start draining your assets. And before you know it, you have a lien on your own properties. You have liens on their family properties. And before you know it, those are being taken into the probate court. And now you owe 50, 60, $70,000 to those attorneys. Then they
Jeez.
come after your property for that. Before you know it, you have no inheritance whatsoever. They might even come after your own home and attorney fees. So you have to be so careful what you do in the probate court system now.
If I might say something, folks, I'm glad we're talking about this, Luanne and Robin. The situation is this, okay? I want to pick up where you just left off, okay? I'm just going to leave it up for the moment. The reason I say that is when they started doing this stuff to my mother in Arizona, in Maricopa County, they were doing it to me personally. I cared for my mother for 10 years. I made sure that her life was as good as it could get. And she and I moved after my father died in '94 from here in Illinois to Arizona, to Phoenix. Okay. And when all this started happening with the guardianship, and they started draining the counts, and they started bullying me and her, I was fortunate enough, with the support of her lawyer, to create a trust and to put it in bankruptcy. Now, let me say this. I've written a book called Tyranny from the Bench, Fighting and Surviving America's Judicial Nightmare. Okay? Now, what I'm advocating is this. You just said the key word, liens. They liened us. But guess what? Through the bankruptcy court, I'm leaning them. Why? Because I have all the evidence. Okay. Okay. We're talking more litigation. Oh, they love litigation.
Yes.
Oh, lawyers love to be in front of the judge. They love to stir the pot. I know. I'm a court official. How did I become a court official? I did not graduate from law school. I did go to law school for 6 months after graduating with honors from the University of California at San Diego in La Jolla, California, 1973. Praise God. I withdrew from law school. Why? Because I started reading stories in the law books of little old ladies being targeted for their money and property when their husbands died. The widows. I was 22 years old. My parents were successful business people. Sounds similar to your story too. I was not going to be a part of a law firm because as a new lawyer graduating from law school, taking the state bar association, all that, and you're not going to hang your shingle out there and people are going to drove to you. You're going to have to build a practice, probably from another law firm, at least people getting to know who you are. Anyway, I decided when I saw what was going on with the bankers, they hire lawyers. Guess what? I would have to represent them in court against women.
Yes.
Right.
Said, I'm out of here. No way.
Yeah.
No way was I designed to hurt women.
Right. I would have done exactly the same thing in your position, Dennis, because that's just like, what do you do? Like either people like you and me, we have ethics, we have a moral code, and certain lines we won't cross, and we're like, no, we're not going to do that. And I wish more people in today's world had that mentality.
That's good you said that, and that's why I'm here. 22 years old. I put myself in the position of this, folks. If my father died and my mother became a widow, and I'm a new lawyer and I'm working for a firm, and the firm is being hired by a banker, because my mother and father were business people. They own property, they own buildings, They own businesses. It's not uncommon, just basically what you've just said, Luanne. You had $3.5 million in property. It's gone.
It's gone.
Where the hell did it go?
And I tell you one thing right now, one of the properties had 2 acres of land. We had 123 antique cars on it. They were forced off of the property, you know, so that's what the public administrator had us do, is liquidate them as fast as we could because she wanted to sell the property. So we lost our businesses, we lost all the property, we even lost the part of one of the additions of the property, and somehow that property turned into a fire station on that whole corner. Now, don't get me wrong, the men in blue, awesome, but we did not get the chance to sell the property ourselves. A public administrator sold it for 1/10 of what it was worth.
Oh, wow.
That's the problem. So we lost our antique car business. We lost 4 properties, 1 in Denver, 3 in Aurora, Colorado, and we can't get them ever back again. They are gone because my father died and left it in a trust thinking that's going to protect our family. That's not true.
That's true, and you're right, and I appreciate what you're saying. Now, I want to say this, okay? I have filed 15 liens against the defendants, including Morgan Stanley Smith Barney, who were the trustee of the trust. Talking about trust, okay? My mother created a trust. She disinherited my sister. I call her my father's daughter. It's in my book, The Champ, Winning in the Ring of Life. Thank you. I take all this very personal, people. This is unacceptable. We have been taken over by a group of thugs, and we should be damn determined to do something very powerful about this.
Damn right.
That's why I'm running for president of this United States, and have been for some time. I created the American Party of America in 1995 because of what I saw with Bill and Hillary Clinton. The Clintons, they have messed up our nation so bad, and we got to fix this. We're the fixers. So, but let me say this. In my book, Tyranny from the Bench, I talk about liens, going after these defendants who have robbed us of our property and money, our heritage, our families' nest eggs, and their life's work, and proceed against them. Okay, they were shocked when I filed the liens against them in the bankruptcy court. Now, you don't have to be in bankruptcy to file liens. All you really need is the evidence and some good lawyers who will represent your interests to make damn sure the court proceeds to a jury unless they wish to settle.
Right.
Okay.
You know, yeah. And the sad thing about all this is that even if you do have some of the estate left over, the public administrator or the conservator will have you sign a paper saying you will not sue them for any reason.
Oh my fucking God, dude.
And the problem is we had to sign that because
I'm so sick of Dennis bitching about shit.
And besides, my family, my brothers and sisters were destitute. They were living out in the streets. So to get them a few $1,000s back was better than not getting anything at all. And we did get my mother out of guardianship, which my sister and I both became the guardians of her, but it cost us everything we had. But my mom was so worth it. To get her back, we are one of the lucky families to get our mom back. Consider that. That's horrifying.
You know, it's funny that you would that you were able to get your mom back. And not funny, but like because I had the similar situation with my mom. After the lawyer obviously had sold us out. I made sure to and I'm in Nevada, and in Nevada all you need to do is to become medical POA is print out the form, have 2 witnesses, sign and date, and you're good to go, and it's legal. So I was able to get that done just as a safety measure, as a safety net to prevent them from kidnapping her via APS because of what they were doing. I knew that was going to be their next step.
Okay, now listen, I want to say this as to your case, Luanne. What you signed was I think what you said was a agreement of indemnification. You indemnified them from you proceeding to recommend criminal charges be filed against them in the Justice Department. In my case, it's the DOJ, the Department of Justice, okay, or injustice, depending upon how you want to say it. I have very little respect for the justice system personally, okay, because I see how it's stacked and how it works, and right now that's part of the reasons I'm in the campaign for America. But I want to say this: there are 3 areas of the law that do not have any statute of limitations. Okay, that's important because even though you may have signed an indemnification agreement, they still violated your mother and the trust and you, because that was a conspiracy to defraud a vulnerable adult. That also was fraud on the court, and that was also continuing violations doctrine, which in my case, I'm still in court since 2005. Thank you. And I will proceed accordingly. Thank you. But the situation is, guess what? There is no statute of limitations on those doctrines. Therefore, as far as I am concerned, anybody in this situation, I believe, can go back into court, file complaints, issue summons, have your day in court, set this for trial if the judge will let it pass, and move it forward with discovery and a jury trial if they won't settle. That's where I'm at with this, okay? I am pioneering new ground in terms of giving people weapons to fight this stuff back with, to recover from all the damage these bastards have created. And Stephen, you know about this.
Yep.
And so nobody needs to tell Luanne and Robin what we're talking about, because they know it too. But the reality has been, how in the hell do we fight this type of gulag that they have put us in? And I'm talking our parents. Remember this, we're the first generation World War II from proud Americans who defeated Nazi Germany and Japan. Are we going to sit here and allow ourselves to be used, abused, and misused since Vietnam? Hell no. We have
we're not.
the tools.
We're going to fight.
We have to fight, and we have the tools to do something important and special for ourselves and the generations to come. We right now are living in a tyranny that has been created by an elitist group of evil bastards who have looked and have studied our weaknesses as a culture historically and a society. I'm a historian. They used probate during the Civil War, during the slave trade, to chattel property for human beings, particularly those from Africa, to be on the plantations. Now they're using it to traffic our parents and their estates. This is the problem we have. We have to fight this. I'm fighting it through the liens that I am filed based on the evidence. They want to go to court? Let's go. I got all the evidence. I'm putting it right in front of their face and the jury. How much do you want to be punished? And then guess what? If they want to be indemnified, it's going to cost them money from doing it. In other words, I would put a 15% surcharge on top of the awards or the liens that I'm getting. So if I have $1 million lien, they're going to have to pay me an additional 15% for me not to recommend criminal charges against them for all the crimes they have committed. And that's another $150,000. So we're talking $1,150,000 to settle with me. Otherwise, it's going to the jury. Praise God.
There you go.
Right.
I mean it.
Right.
I am not playing here, people. It's on.
No, I'm not
And
playing.
on. The whole thing is on. the whole thing. This rises to the level of crimes against humanity.
It does.
This rises to the level of the Hague, of the International Criminal Court. This arises to the United Nations.
It does.
And incidentally, I'm headed to the United Nations, people. I'll be flying from Orlando to LaGuardia very soon. You'll be hearing more about that.
That'd be good.
Oh yeah.
And the problem is that the attorneys are claiming to be heirs to families' estates. They're the ones who are turning into the heirs because they have the cops behind them, they have the courts behind them, they have the judges behind them. Therefore, the family's thinking that they're going to get an inheritance, they're going to get their mother out of guardianship. It's not going to happen hardly at all anymore. You know, so.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's right. Let me say, I didn't mean to interrupt, but let me say this. This is important. Under Title 18, Section 241 and 242 of the Criminal Code in the federal USC, Title 18, judges may be arrested for criminal behavior. Guess what? Abraham Lincoln arrested judges and tried them for treason. Guess what? That's what we have today.
Yeah.
Guess what? Camp Delta at Guantanamo Bay, Cuba is designed especially for that, with FEMA barges there on the island to be waiting for trials and punishment. The punishment can be very severe. It will be interesting to see how it plays out. What say you?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely. And the American people have been cowed and intimidated by the power that is exercised in these courts. The American people, and on the other side of that coin, the other reason why the American people have been cowed and intimidated is that education does not include the cultural context of what being an American is.
You know, you're
We
absolutely
don't grow
right.
up learning about the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights. If these things were inculcated in us in elementary school through high school through college, so that every citizen knew their rights, knew when those rights are being violated, knew that they can stand up, and that there's laws that are enforceable that say, you can't do this to me, then it's much more difficult to intimidate that individual than the one that doesn't know any of that. And
You're
so
absolutely
the fact
right.
we're not being educated to our heritage is one way, by dumbing down the education that we receive from the time we're young children until the time we're out of college. People don't know finance, and they don't know the cultural background of what it is to be an American.
You're right. You don't.
Immigrants get a grounding in what America stands for and what it is to be an American. Americans, we don't know. We have very little idea. We don't even say the Pledge of Allegiance anymore because that's discriminatory or something.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
It's un-American.
It is. Our cultural background and heritage has been robbed from us. And this is the first thing to go if you want to rob the rest. Because once a person does not know that, hey, you have guaranteed rights, God-given rights. It's not that our government gives us rights.
No.
It's that we're born with inalienable rights that are ours because we walk on this earth. And because we are born into a society, we have certain rights that are automatically our own, that no one has the right to take from us. But if we are not taught that from the time we're very young, then we become easily taken advantage of, and those rights are easily stripped from us because we don't know we don't know that we have them, so we don't know that we can enforce them, and we certainly don't know how to enforce them.
Yep. You know, speaking of that, I can 100% confirm about the dumbing down of this the generations in the school system. my generation, I think I was probably one of the last generations to actually get some real history and and education on our country, our constitution, all that. And but after that, it seems like it just went straight down.
Right.
And it's like, and all my sister's generation and the generations after that, they're not being taught this stuff. They're not.
No.
And I tutor my neighbor's kid, when needed, and so like, you're absolutely right. They're not being taught this, and they're being taught a bunch of propaganda to keep them distracted from knowing their rights, and this is absolutely by design.
Right.
I would like to ask Robin a question.
Even if you have rights, the courts are not honoring the rights. The courts are coming in there, and they're just telling you, you can't even speak in this court. You have nothing to say. We get to say so, you get nothing. So even if you want to speak up in a court, you can nowadays. That's a problem.
They're not letting people. They're completely railroading and ignoring evidence by one party and only showing the evidence by the other. It's ridiculous. It's
right.
It's a complete. It's the definition of insanity, if you ask me.
Well,
Right.
And
I have to ask a question. Robin, is the Department of Education corrupt?
Oh. Well, I would redefine the question: is the Department of Miseducation functioning the way it has been redesigned to function? Yes, we are miseducating people intentionally. The Department of Education does not provide education in the traditional sense of what people think that is. There are many ways in which we are intentionally miseducated. It is the disinformat. It is the Russian Federation's disinformation program that has been retooled for the American citizen.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And that's exactly what it looks like too. It looks like they took what they did there and applied it here.
Right. And you can see this very clearly if you try to get a major news media story that tells the truth about our health care in this country.
Oh my gosh, that's a whole nother subject.
Oh, I know. I mean, I've covered the whole medical fraud issue, and I know that just from that alone, how much censorship I got. You're absolutely right.
So many, we could talk on so many different subjects. There's so much corruption going on nowadays that it doesn't.
That one at least is so much in people's faces that most people are sort of at least marginally aware. Most people, I think, are at least marginally aware that not everything is kosher there. But in the court system, the courts have the advantage of saying, I'm putting a gag order on you, and if you speak of this, we're going to lock you in jail. Yes. And I know several people I know somebody in jail right now because they spoke out about the abuses that the court subjected them to. And I'm saying someone, but there's many that this happens to that are locked away.
Oh yeah,
because they're telling the truth
about
the abuses of the court system.
I've got a case that Angela Freiner, my co-host, we co-hosted Sacred Lovisa during season 1. I was getting them trained and all that, but she's going through something very similar. Her daughter was taken on an unlawful TRO that never went to the courts, and they got her daughter. The order was sent to the cop by the father, which is completely improper. And we've been able to prove all this, but they're trying to persecute her, and they put a gag order from her to speak it out. But she's been recording and documenting everything and putting it out there. And they're trying to come after her now. They're persecuting her for it. When in fact they took her daughter, even when her daughter said, please don't send me with him, he touches me, et cetera, et cetera. And the judge told her daughter, if you don't go with your mother, or if you don't go with your father, I'm going to lock your mother up so you don't have any choice but to go with your father.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
We hear those stories every day of children being taken by the CPS, adults being taken by the APS, and then you end up in court. They find out how much money you have, and then they go on for days, years, going through all of decades. I went through it for a whole decade, 10 years in a probate court. I mean, you talk about destroying families.
And that's a probate court with a family that had all the documents in place where everything was prepared and everything should have just passed seamlessly from parents to children. It was that they had all their planning well laid out and well planned, and documents made, and instruments created that would allow them to simply gracefully transfer the transference of wealth from parents to children, which is the the way that most parents intend for things to go. But it doesn't go that way. If they're able to drag you into a court for under any pretext, it can be a real pretext or it can be a false pretext.
Any accusation.
Because in the probate courts, you will hear, oh, the judges don't have time, which is probably true, to investigate whether or not they're being told the truth. Well, I'm sure that that's true. I think it's also partly by design, and I think they have little desire to investigate whether what's being told them is true or not, because honestly, we have seen cases where we are able to document that judges are taking out loans on a home of many thousands of dollars and paying them back at a rate that cannot be explained by any income sources that we're aware of in that judge's salary and investments and whatever. So money is coming from somewhere mysteriously to pay off loans that this judge has made, that has gotten. And so we believe this is one of the ways that judges are being paid off.
I absolutely agree. In fact, I could probably add a little bit more context to that. I've seen in a lot of the cases I've covered, especially in the Angela Farner case, my co-host, she's her representative, her lawyer, the one that she was supposed to be representing her, Evita Tolu, who come to find out turned out to be, part of the problem, was part of the whole scheme, tried to steal her house from her. Went behind, they tried to steal her house, and we've seen money transactions, cash purchases for many real estate properties with a lot of these people that we know are already involved, or others that have been that we suspect are involved. And I suspect that they're doing money laundering through the real estate, and that's where some of that source money is coming from. I would suspect, just based on what I've seen.
Right, and the problem is when we went to court in the probate courts, we had 17 attorneys, there was 2 judges. There was 34 court dates, and we had 7 restraining orders. That happened, and we were afraid to even go to court anymore. Because the public administrator, the guardians and limited guardians, they had my mother. They knew where she was. They knew exactly what was going on, and any step we made, it was like, you can't do anything. We have your mom. So we were afraid to do anything. That's just unheard of. That's.
And people realize when your mother or father or child has been taken, and that the people that are holding them are not people with a purpose that has integrity. And so you realize that they're in a position of threat of one form or another, then they have a hostage. They're holding that person hostage. And you are in a hostage situation where you're trying to defend someone against their captors. And all there is to do, really, is keep paying the ransoms. And the ransoms come one after another, after another, after another. As long as you have anything left to pay, they will take it. And then if you don't have anything left to pay, they'll say, now you owe us 70 grand, and we're just going to take your home, because that's what you have left. Now we're going to they take everything. You will be left destitute, and then you don't get that person back. No, that's when that person is no longer of any use to them. They call in the hospice, and that person is now no longer living.
And the good thing about that is my sister and we finally got control of my mother through a co-guardianship. But the attorneys, to get my mom back, they write us a letter to say, congratulations, you know how to take care of your mother now. Are you kidding me? We've taken care of my mother my whole life.
So you basically had to get a letter from them saying that?
They sent us a congratulations letter. It's like, are you kidding me?
It's like an insult.
It was.
And then all of a sudden they said, well, we're going to put these papers in, and you're going to be the co-guardians of your mother, but yet they let her be taken off as a trustee. She wasn't good enough for that position, but she was okay to be a co-guardian for her mother. I was like, whoa.
That's a
This-
dog and pony show at its finest.
And just to clarify, we're giving you guardianship over your mother. You will control her person, but we will maintain control over all of the properties, bank accounts.
all that.
You don't get any of that.
Yeah, I get a
And,
social
and we
security.
don't give you anything that's hers. You
Wow.
support her out of your pocket.
Right. That's what they did. I had to support everything she did out of her own social security money, even though there was $200,000 in her trust money. Forget that. That went to 17 attorneys. They got it all, most of it. There was a very little bit left, which they did
understand.
divide among 6 children, but it was so small. We actually call it hush money. That was it.
What was the percentage of your mother's?
She had 13%.
13% actually did go towards her care.
85% went to the attorneys, 13%, and we got about
God, that's highway
2%.
robbery.
76% went to those people you're describing right now
Yeah,
in my mother's case.
85%. We have the calculations all printed out by a professional
Good.
firm that did that. Not
Did
only
it
that,
once
but
about it, I
a
can
lot
see
of the
that.
property, a lot of the property wasn't even noted in the courts. We don't even know where one of the properties went to.
Well, we know that the court, that the records at the county clerk's office show that a property that was owned by the trust that was in the control of the administrator who was administering it for the court was sold, and there was $60,000 for that never appeared in the accounting that was submitted to the court by that administrator.
Of
Yeah,
course.
we don't. And there was $6,000 errors on another property. There was errors
All thieves.
everywhere, and
Money was disappearing all over.
we don't
the
know.
place.
And somehow they paid off the original trust attorney of $50,000 or something like that. Then they paid themselves hefty checks. But I tell you what, if it wasn't becoming a radio show host and working with senators, legislators, we would have gotten nothing back. That's the sad part. That was all of ours to begin with. It should have never have gone to any.
No, it should have never come to that. That's ridiculous.
No.
No, it
But-
should never have been in court in the first place.
But if I was to come into you and say, I am going to take control of your property, I'm going to pay all of ourselves money, we're going to put your parents away, we're going to do this to you, you and I would be arrested. But these people have a court okay to do that to you. That's
Right.
not.
This
No,
is
It's not right.
tyranny,
It's
folks.
not right. They're not doing their
You're
job.
not-
They're not upholding the Constitution or our rights.
We
This
would
is
be arrested.
tyranny.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah,
and
earlier you were talking about these people are thugs, and I thought,
Yes.
well, those are strong words. It
It's
would
true.
be nice if it were not true,
Right.
but it is true. These
I would
people
go. I would still go so far as to say
They
they're
are
acting like the mob.
the worst kind of criminals. They
Yes,
do
they
not
are.
have any. It's an institutionalized. It's like there's a giant institutional sociopath that has entered your life,
That's
and
it.
they are
Yeah.
authorized by the instrument of decision making to authorize this whole sociopathic crowd of lawyers to rob and kill.
And
That's
nowadays, if you go and if you talk about what's going on with your case, some of these attorneys get so angry at what's going on, they will come out and give you a defamation lawsuit. Anybody. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what you're talking about. Then they come after your personal items. So no matter what you do, it's like the courts are going to come against you. Either the courts are, or the attorneys, or somebody's going to come after you. And it's not right. Everybody should be able to have freedom of speech. Everybody
Yes,
should.
absolutely.
Everybody should be able to
We're
say,
guaranteed.
yeah, everybody should be able to do that, but they're not allowed to do that anymore. Not only that, but the good attorneys out there that are speaking out on behalf of these of their families and their clients, they're getting sanctioned as well nowadays. That's another big problem we have.
Yeah, if you are an attorney who is doing right by your clients and vigorously representing their interests when you go to court, there is a very high percentage chance that you will be driven out of the legal profession by a combination of the Bar Association and other attorneys that get together to sue you, defame you, and basically defraud you of your job.
Yep,
Right.
and will be
absolutely.
driven out of that business.
That's what
It's
we're
horrible.
seeing
Where are
left
the
and right.
governors? Where are the legislators? Where's the checks and balances in this country?
Oh,
Right.
oh gosh, that's another thing that we want to talk about is that in Colorado, you go into legislation, it is so impossible to get any legislation done
Well,
in the favor of people. It
as an
doesn't happen.
example, we went to testify before legislators on, I don't know how many,
15 bills.
at least, yeah,
15 to
okay,
20 bills.
15 bills, and because each, would have to do with some aspect of the court system, and on several occasions, I have been testifying, and they say you have 3 minutes, go, and you've got 3 minutes, and they cut you off after 3 minutes. One time they tried to cut me off, but it just happened that I had carefully timed my speech, and as they're trying to cut me off, I said, "Thank you very much. That was it." but the but then same room, same legislators, same situation. A judge walks in, a former judge walks in. You take all the time you want.
Yeah.
We'd like to hear from you, oh great one. It's
ridiculous.
absurd.
It's awful.
It's absurd.
I got
We're-
6 people watching on
Judge
Rumble
really
Live.
has no business at
Yeah.
the legislative meeting discussing what's
I
going
get most of them. We're getting most of our views on Rumble these days.
That is a conflict of interest, clear as day.
In and of
Bring it
itself. Yeah.
We've had the Supreme Court justices testifying, and they were allowed up to 20 minutes apiece to talk. So
well,
that's
all the time they want
all the time they wanted to.
Yeah.
As long as they had to, they thanked them for coming in there, but they obviously
they
don't care
bowed
about
down as if it were
We're
kings
seeing
and queens, royalty.
we're seeing the same kind of tactics in the school board meetings that I'm covering out here. Like they've cut the video feed from the public comment section, and then they moved the public comment to the end after they voted on everything. It's completely upside down. But like you said, 3 minutes. They've only given they used to have it used to be you could have up to I think it was 10 minutes prior to them cutting down on all this, and now it's 3, and now they're cutting people off. That's why I'm covering it, so that the public is seen and their faces can be seen when they speak, because they have a right to be heard. And the school system or the Clark County School District is not letting them be seen, and they're doing this intentionally because they know they're being called out.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. So the whole judicial system, the legislators, it is just tough to get in there after day. We've got 4 bills going in right now into Colorado that they say we want to hear from the public, but when you do, they don't take it. They don't even let you talk. I mean, it's
No, they don't.
It's just so horrifying to sit there and watch them just stomp over and stomp over. And Colorado was rated the 48th worst judicial system in the country, behind the Virginia Islands. Remember Virgin Islands? The Virgin Islands.
Yeah.
We were ranked the last worst of them all. And it's
It's funny. Our school system was ranked the worst in the country too. Like we're last on the list. Come to find out, I'm like, well, that's no surprise considering they're racketeering the sped money.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dennis, perhaps you can answer this question. Am I using the right word when I say we're living under an oligarchy? Is that the right word?
Plutocracy.
Plutocracy. Yeah, there you go.
Plutocracy. Yeah.
Plutocracy.
This is a corporatism.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, corporate
Corporatism,
fascism basically is what it's looking like to me.
Yes, and I write about it in my book Foundations for Generations, and in One Nation, which is my flagship book for the current campaign. Abraham Lincoln was afraid of this. Believe it or not, in 1864, he wrote to his field commander, Colonel William Elkins, that he thought the prejudice of people would be worked against us, that the rights that we are given by God would be usurped, and that corporations would take over and we would lose our republic. Now, he said that. It's in my book, The Ball Doctrine, page 47, and that was a prophecy that was echoed, and it was affirmed in 1879 by, I think we've talked about this, Stephen, President Hayes, Rutherford B. Hayes. I have another book called Full Circle, America's Dirty Dark Secret. And I talk about President Hayes affirming that America is no longer a nation of individuals, but corporations. We, the people, have been usurped by corporations to the extent where we now are the slaves and the serfs. Yet we have been told that this is a land of, by, and for the people. We have been tricked.
Right.
And as a consequence, we are basically in servitude of them.
Yeah.
And that's not what the founders created, nor was it what the patriots died for, nor was it that we were defending in World War I, World War II, all these other wars since. And here we are now defending ourselves against a tyranny that has been allowed to grow and been done very secretly, in my opinion.
It has.
No one caught on to it in 1975 in law school, and I recognized right there was a problem, okay? And now it's on steroids. I was sucked into it because we all get old, and my mother got old. But here we are. Now I want to ask you this too, and two things, folks. One is the governors say nothing, the legislators say nothing, the judiciary says nothing, the president says nothing. Who's involved in this? They are.
Right. Right.
I agree.
They have become tacit agents of the multinational corporatocracy.
There you go.
Definitely.
Yeah.
They are now tacit agents of the multinational corporatocracy.
And you know what the saddest thing about this all is? There's probably maybe 10-20% of the whole nation that knows what's going on.
Exactly.
No idea how corrupt the system is
I think
anymore.
that's a high.
Maybe that's a little bit high, maybe 10%, right?
I believe you're right.
I definitely think more and more people are becoming aware of it just in the last couple of years. I mean, I've seen more and more people being affected by this. I
think she was
suspect that
hinting
more
that
and more
she's
people
gonna give it to me,
their
so
personal lives,
cool.
daily lives, they're
I'm
going
gonna
to
keep
start
it.
realizing
Because it was on the
it can't
floor.
come
so
quick
I'm
enough.
gonna
We need people to know about this now, like yesterday.
We do.
That's why the AOA is growing. We are growing. The AOA, the American National Committee. It's time for a third party in this country. And it's time really to take over the second slot because the Democrats and Republicans have done nothing to correct this problem.
Agreed.
Oh, and they fight against each other all the time. You hear the Democrats, the Republicans, but what are they doing for the public?
Right,
Nothing.
exactly. All they're doing is sowing division amongst us. Why are they doing that? What's really going on there?
Right. It appears to be ineptitude, and it appears that they're unable to function, that they're somehow inept. But I believe
done by design to make it look that way. They know damn well what they're doing.
What we're seeing is two paper moons set up to look like there's something going on here that is supposed to entertain and supposed to be one thing, that is a representative of here we have the moon, it's this kind, here we have the moon, it's this, and we choose your moon and stand under it, and then you'll get the candy that we give you. But there isn't any candy. There's
right. I'm going to start referring to both parties, left and right. I'm going to start calling them the paper moons.
Yeah, the paper moon. Because it's only a paper moon. There is nothing real about these things. It is all part of a multinational corporatocracy.
Yeah, we had this one guy come on our radio show, and he says that it's a kabuki theater in a court, a kangaroo court. Kabuki theater.
It is. Absolutely, it is a kangaroo court for sure. I mean, just look at this last week. about what was supposed to happen last Tuesday, apparently, and look how that played out. I mean, it's obvious to anybody that's paying attention, with the whole how just skewed the justice system is right now.
Yeah, it's so sad. That's the
I have
problem.
another question for Robin. What would you do about the Department of Education in the federal government?
Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Oh my gosh. Well,
Expose them for one thing.
first of all,
I'm on it.
I took issue with the education system when I was in about third grade. I started to realize, wait a minute, wait just a darn minute here. You're trying to teach me what to think. I don't need to know what to think. I need to know how. How do I use this brilliant instrument? How do I use this magnificent instrument? How do I play the instrument? That's what I'm here to learn. Teach me how to use the instrumentation that I've been given, this mind, and I can figure out from there. That's all I need from the education system. And that is what we should be giving
It is
to our children.
how to think and critically think.
Is how you think. This is how you approach problems. This is how you want to know mathematics? Okay, well, start from anywhere in the universe. Start with music. Start with nature. Start with whatever you want to start with, and show how everything is interwoven and interrelated, because it all is. Music is intervals of vibration. So is time space.
Yep.
So are molecules, atoms, cells, electrons, galaxies, solar systems. They all have certain relationships that are geometrical relationships.
The golden ratio, for example.
Right. Yeah. Precisely what I'm talking about. Exactly.
But then you think about, what can we do?
Well, you teach children principles that allow them to have the necessary instrumentality to use their minds. You teach them how a mind works and how to use their minds, and you have to start with a presupposition that every single person is born a genius, because they are. The only reason that we're not geniuses all is that we're taught that we're not geniuses all.
So, and then another question you want to ask yourself is, what can we do to protect ourselves in the courtrooms? And that is a huge problem, because I think they need to put cameras in every single courtroom.
They do. They do.
Right.
And we need court watchers in every single one too.
You need court watchers, absolutely, and you also need to not have jury trials instead of a judge. Put them in front of your peers. Put them in front of.
It's funny.
If we had recordings available for the general public to see of what judges are doing, because you know what, I think what we would see is some judges getting lynched after a while, because
I think that's good.
General public would go, good heavens, will you look at what this person is criminal. They're doing things that are destructive of the rights of individuals. They're doing things that are destructive of the life, liberty, property of individuals.
Right.
This is treason.
Right.
Yes.
And
as Americans, now I'm not advocating for violence.
No, not at all.
Cautioning those involved in the justice system that they are deserving of violence when they inflict violence against others, and that someday it may come due and they may face it, because that's the price you pay when you create such an offense to so many people with no accountability. So we need, for their sakes and our own, to create accountability in our courtrooms. How do we do that? We shine a light. We let the world see what they are up to. And in that way, judges then realize, okay, people see me now. I can't hide behind the black hole of no accountability. Now people see me, they understand what's going on in these courtrooms, and at this point in time, I've got to adjust my behavior. I cannot continue to be an unjust judge ruling in ways that are destructive of the God-given rights of the people that come before me, or I'm going to face the consequences of an angry crowd taking me out and lynching me.
Yep.
Yes.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's funny because I've learned that with the broadcasting just that I've done, all you need to do is put pressure on them, let them know that they know, make sure they know that we know that they know that we're watching them. You know,
Right.
It's like the original purpose of freedom of the press was originally to act as checks and balances against corrupt officials. Most people don't know that, and right now with the mainstream media being completely bought and paid for, it's up to people like us doing the alternative media thing that are holding the line.
Bingo.
Right.
Right.
In closing, folks, Robin, again, I want to ask you a question back to the Department of Education. What would you do to correct the abuse in the Department of Education?
Gosh.
Oh my gosh. What would I
Same
do to
thing that
correct
we
the
would be
abuse
doing.
of the Department of
Same thing that we would be doing, exposing the probate courts, exposure. You know, what else are you going to do? I mean, you could, what else? What else could you do? That's a good question.
To correct the abuses in the Department of Education, I think you have to found education. I thought about this a lot because I was so against the way education was being done. And I thought I would like to found a school for the advanced mentoring of genius. And one day somebody asked me, well, who would be invited? I'd be like, everybody, because we all have genius within us.
Mhm.
Yes.
And we would rework the educational system so that each child is asked, well, what are you interested in? And then you
Right.
teach about where their interests lie. And yes, it requires a sort of a person intensive kind of education,
Mhm.
but you educate each child according to their interests. But you show them how whatever it is they're interested in is related to the rest of the world, so that they're learning about the entire universe,
Yep.
starting with the nutshell of, gee, I really like walnuts. Okay, well, let's study walnuts and begin to understand the golden ratio within the cells of the walnut, and the subtleties of flavor that are within a walnut that are representative of other flavors, and the growth patterns of trees that are walnut trees that are related to the growth patterns of children, that are related to the growth patterns of other trees, that are related to the growth patterns, how insects play in that, how mycorrhizomes play in that, how the fungus that live in the earth have mycelium that use the roots to communicate to other things. You see, all things are related. If we begin from that and we teach children how to unfold their genius and how to go deep into each subject, whichever subject they want to take an interest in, we encourage them in that subject and we nurture them in that subject, and we broaden their understanding through that subject into all things.
Right.
And in this way, each child is awakened to their own genius. Why? Because they're interested from the very moment that they walk into education.
Oh my gosh,
they
yes.
would rather learn than eat. They would rather learn. This is true. A young child, when they're excited about learning something, they're not interested in eating. They're not interested in anything else. They are interested in what they're learning, because that's an exciting thing.
No.
The human mind is hungry.
You're
I
absolutely
appreciate
right
it.
on that. Absolutely. Real quick.
I
Go ahead, Dennis. I'll let you go first.
Well, yes, because our time is limited here, but I wanted to say that I think it's very good what you're saying, Robin. My question was directed more in terms of how to correct the abuse. In other words, this is my personal opinion. I think that the Department of Education should be defunded, just like CPS, APS defunded, just like they want to defund the police. I think these agencies have created more problems than they're worth and have caused harm to the American people and to the children and to the families. And I think that the president could do an executive order to do that and follow up with a campaign against these people outside of those getting arrested and sent to Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. What say you?
I get you. I get you where you're coming from. Now that I think the answer to the real question you're asking is that we need to empower uh, parents to be able to take whatever money the state has been spending on education and to empower parents to apply that to their children's education in whatever way they see fit.
I
If we
agree.
if each family were given vouchers that they could spend howsoever, but it has to be education, yes, but howsoever they see fit to educate their children, then parents are given the power that rightfully God has given us, because here we are given children. So parents are then given the power to empower their children. And I think that way you would encourage all the parents out there to go, well, how can I get the best education? I'm responsible. I get to choose. I get to raise my child. It's not given over to somebody else to do. Well, great. Okay. Now I'm choosing what really is the best option. I'm spending that money that's being spent on my behalf and on behalf of my child by a corporatocracy. Now I'm choosing how that money is spent. I'm directing those funds. I think that would improve the educational system more than anything else we could do.
Right.
I would have you and Luanne on my kitchen cabinet. I think that's really important that the president have a kitchen cabinet. I don't see them doing that. Even Trump didn't have that. We need a kitchen cabinet of people like you who can come up with the ideas to change the fabric back to our society, to the we, us, and our, from the me, mine narcissism that has taken control of our culture.
I agree.
And I just want you to know that, and I appreciate your input today. And I want to thank both of you for being here on the show.
Yes, definitely. Thank you. We appreciate your time and your what you guys have to say. I think what you guys are doing is important. Just like what we're doing is important. I mean, we're literally holding the line right now because nobody else.
We are. It's an honor and a privilege to be here and to participate with you guys in the transformation of this country into something that it really deserves to be.
And we welcome both of you back to our radio show at any time.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, thank you. I would like to, send you some campaign material. I think it's really important. As a matter of fact, I'm wearing one of the buttons right now. Myself and Richard Sanders are on the ticket, and we have bumper stickers and campaign materials. I'm sending out packages to people all over this country. We have now in 7 states, we have campaign managers. The race for the White House has begun. The reason I'm doing this is also to bring in candidates who will be educated in our thinking, the way we're talking, and become the candidates to win elections and go in and change the system from within. I think that's what the founders decided that was the best results, and they encouraged it. Remember, at one time, the Bible was the only book really read in the home, and the Bible has many good things to say for us to live our lives. And I believe that if we will do the things that the Bible speaks of, our country will be healed, and we will have a chance to recover from all the damage and harm, and we will prevent many of the abuses that have continued unabated for our children and generations to come. So I will say this: if you would like some material from us, from me, just leave me an address to send it to you, a mailing address, and be very happy to do that.
Absolutely. We will do that. We will do that.
Okay. Yeah. And Luanne, I got a call last night from Linda Brown in Louisiana. She is so encouraged by what we're doing now with all this. Not that she hasn't in the past, but the way the thing is going, I believe God's hand is in this, and we are making history. And she is really encouraged by the things that we're doing. Praise God.
Praise God.
Praise God. Hear, hear.
Well, I think it's been great. Like I say, we always tell everybody, if they can't face you, they can't face me, they can face us.
I love that. That's a perfect slogan, you guys. I love that. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I like the name. It's very good. I love the way the acronym, the way you've got it there. That's very good.
Right. And what FACEUS stands for is Families Against Court Embezzlement and Unethical Standards Face Us, is what it
Oh, I
stands
was just going to ask you what the acronym stood for, but you read my mind.
There it is.
That's excellent. All right. Well, thank you very much. God bless you, and God bless America.
Here, here. God bless America.
Everyone. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Great show tonight or today, you guys. Appreciate all your time and effort put in. We really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Mutual gratitude.